What's the most hypocritical thing you've witnessed? I found out a colleague hadn't applied for a big promotion, so I asked why, as she had shown a lot of interest in the past, having covered the position quite enthusiastically. She told me that she had been off for a few weeks and on her first day back had given another colleague a lift home, massively out of her way. It was common knowledge in the office the vacancy was coming up and we were just waiting for HR to open up applications, so whilst driving it came up, but the other person said that applications hadn't opened yet and they hadn't heard anything about the role in a while. Applications closed the following day, and I know for fact the person who denied knowing about the vacancy had already put their own application in a few days before. My colleague missed out on the role and we all learned there was a snake in the office. What's worse is the petty bumhole never stood a chance of even getting an interview for the role because she was known as lazy and quite argumentative. I have kind of a reverse story. There was a promotion open where I used to work. It was a real nice job. Anyone who got it was gonna make about $125,000 a year. Important job, interesting job, fun job. But pretty much everyone just knew who it was going to, the personal pet of the head of that department, who would be making the promotion decision. So much so that almost no one who was both qualified and in the know would apply for it. The application process was pretty intense, would have taken up a lot of time. So no one was willing to put hours and hours of time, not to mention the stress associated with hoping, worrying, etc. that goes along with a career move like this, into what they had every reason to know was a rigged game. But now there's a problem. Unless there was a sufficient number of applicants, resulting in a sufficiently large number of applicants judged by the HR department to be highly qualified, the position couldn't be filled. It would have to be re-advertised. So the department head made it a point to call a few people in the company that he knew and had worked with. Told them, yeah, not sure if you've heard, but there's a promotion opportunity open in my department. Now, you know I can't promise you the position, but I can say that you'll be very well qualified for this job, ideal, really, and I very highly encourage you to apply. I can't imagine anyone more qualified than you are. Okay, so at least 2 or 3 people applied. Put lots and lots of time into the application process. More hours spent preparing for the interview. Sweated it? Worried about it? Hoped for it? Then, of course, having effectively gamed the system, he hired his pet. Just dashed to bits the hopes of the poor suckers on the rocks below. The prick. I used to work with this girl who honestly is one of the top 5 nicest people I've met in my life. She really did love this job too and cared about it. She actually had 2 jobs where she started at 4 a.m. for one of them, and the other job, the one I was at, ended at 10 or 11 at night. After all this, she'd give me rides home too, cause I didn't have a car yet. One day her sister told her if she had half a brain she'd ask to be a server at our location, because she had been working her ass off for basically a year there, working double shifts every day. Not only did management not let her be a server, once she quit, another girl who came a month before she quit ended up getting promoted to server by the end of that month. She was 3 years younger than her and had no experience serving. They just hated her for some reason and I'll never understand it. I used to work with a lady in an old IT department who was basically everyone's work mom. She did her job but also liked to make sure everyone was happy. She kept track of everyone's birthdays so she could make them a cake or cookies. She would offer to cover for you if you needed to leave early or take a long lunch or anything, just overall a great person. Well, she was also one of the oldest, in tenure, not age, employees at the company and knew the CEO and most of the managers well. At one point there was an opening for a manager in a department she used to work in before moving to IT. We all told her to go for it. The CEO herself even suggested that she go for it. So everyone assumed she was a shoo-in and that the interview was just a formality. So, after the interview, they give the job to someone else. My co-worker feels really hurt and betrayed because why would the CEO push her to apply and then not hire her for the position? Months go by and the role is vacant again, restructuring, the new manager got shuffled somewhere else, and again the CEO and some of the managers of other departments tell my co-worker to apply. She is reluctant but eventually she does. And they do it to her again. At that point she took it personally and felt like she did something wrong or wasn't a good employee or something. It killed me to see that crappy company break her spirit like that. Becky, if you somehow read this, you're the best and way better than that place deserves. Melvin and Marjorie had been married 40 years and looking forward to a comfortable retirement when Melvin told Marjorie God had called him to be a missionary in the Philippines. Marjorie, being a good Christian, supported her husband's decision, bought him luggage and drove him to the airport as a good wife does. Melvin wrote emails every day talking about his ministry and how things were going and asked Marjorie to send him money occasionally. Months passed this way and soon it was time for Melvin to come home. And he did. With a new 18-year-old bride. As it turns out, Melvin had divorced Marjorie in secret by forging her names on a do-it-yourself divorce kit and filing it with the court. Marjorie defaulted, of course, and the divorce was finalized without her ever knowing. So when Melvin returned from the Philippines, he dropped the bomb that not only had they been divorced for a year and a half but he now had this new wife and Marjorie would need to move out of the house and into another which he graciously agreed she could have in the divorce she never knew about. Coldest thing I've ever seen. I went to a very poor high school. There was a girl who would volunteer to work concessions and baked hundreds of cookies to sell and raise money for girls' athletics, as she herself played 3 sports. Over her 4 years, she had to have raised over $1,000. Her senior year, she was a manager for the volleyball team. Having been a starter the year before, I assumed she was injured and asked when she would be able to play again. I was shocked to hear she had been cut from the team. No one knew why, but you could tell she was heartbroken. My cousin is genuinely one of the nicest people I have ever had the privilege of knowing. She is an elementary school teacher who apparently kicks butt at teaching too because she has won numerous teaching awards. Her husband lost his job in the recession and that's when she said he turned into a different person. He ended up cheating on her, claiming he was driven to it because my cousin is infertile. She begged him to see a couples counselor. He agreed. She set up and did all the work to get the appointment. Even though he was unemployed and the one that cheated. The morning they were supposed to go, he gave her divorce papers. She was crushed. Good news is, more than a decade on she is doing better than ever. Has met a great guy that worships her. The guy has a son and they all get along great with the boyfriend's ex-wife. They all even celebrate holidays and vacation together. She deserves every drop of happiness. There were 2 people in our circle of friends who had been together for about 2 years since shortly after first meeting. They were always together, always happy and pretty much a model couple for the rest of us. She was effortlessly beautiful inside and out. Gentle, thoughtful, supportive, and enthusiastic with all of us. An absolute sweetheart and a lovely person. He was fun to be around, smart, reliable and had his shit together. Then she goes to the other side of the country for a few weeks to visit with family. At some point before this trip he found out that the sister of someone else in our circle, let's call them L, was very into him. She lived an hour away with her parents. As soon as the girlfriend was gone, he was bragging about planning to hook up with the sister. He told everybody about it, and he and Elle would laugh and joke about it like it was a jolly win. It made the rest of us very uncomfortable. So eventually the sister, who we'd never seen before, shows up one weekend to hang out. It was awkward with a lot of wink wink nudge nudge, and then they did the deed and she went home and we never saw her again. The boyfriend and Elle had some more high fives. Oh, and somebody called the GF to rat him out, and she wound up taking him back anyway after she got back. It was all so strange and I felt awful for her. She didn't deserve it at all, to not only have her boyfriend cheat on her but also treat it like the grand opening of a chain store. Please like, comment, and subscribe.